I enjoy travelling up front in aircraft and paying a little bit more than those at the back. I often pay less than business, less than premium economy, and I don't even know what economy is, I'm afraid. So but no. So I also enjoy 360 photography, both on the ground and also up in the air, because I'm also a commercial and private drone pilot as well. So I've got 4 or 5 different drones, from small to very big, which I fly all over the country. And you'll see a little icon down bottom right. I haven't got a clue which was right and left. I never have. But down in the corner, little camera. If you want to take photographs, whenever you see that sign, it means the end of a slide. So there we are. Okay, so just a little bit. If you don't know me, just a little bit of information about me. I tend to walk the walk rather than just talking the talk. What have I done recently? Converted former commercial council building even into 21 apartments. Obtained planning in airspace for 9 2-bed duplex apartments. These are mine rather than clients of ours. Built 14 bungalows. Obtained planning to demolish a hotel and build 20 apartments, 4 houses. That's got a GDV of in excess of £20 million. And I've made lots of mistakes. Who here has made mistakes in planning, in property? Who hasn't made mistakes? I was about to call you a liar. I think we've all made mistakes. I continue to do them, but I learn. The important thing is learning from the mistakes you make. Obviously, COVID didn't help either in a lot of what I've actually done recently, but then it's affected everyone. And now I mentor, I coach others as well, and I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the businesses I have. And I'm also the planning expert to various other mentors as well. So if you're mentored by someone else, you may experience me there as well. Okay, so this is a hotel. So this is down in Cornwall. We spent something in the region of, I think we spent something in the region of about £200,000 on the planning on this. Planning is not necessarily cheap. So this is a 60-bed hotel, C1 obviously, and we took that through planning, got it on an option to actually get that through. And this is what we obtained through planning. So that's 20 apartments, 4 houses. The penthouse up the top, that's got a value of just shy of £2 million. The houses, 4 houses there, they've each got a value of about £4.5 million each. And even the most basic flats, probably just shy of £1 million, or was a couple of years ago. It's probably gone up now. And one of the reasons why is that is the view that hotel looks out on. So this is down in Newquay in Cornwall, hence the value of about £20 million. And just to say, things don't always go smoothly. One of two of you may know what I'm about to actually say. This happened on Sunday, so just gone. The place caught fire and burnt down. So we were literally, that was all about to complete with the buyer and everything else. I mean, it's a building site essentially, but this hasn't exactly helped. So this was this. So I mean, it was Sunday. I think Sunday afternoon. It caught fire, and they were still fighting it the following day. And in fact, to be honest, I was quite surprised it hasn't burnt down before, because this has been empty for probably about two years. And so, yeah, we don't really know what happened, but it burnt down. So, half of Cornwall, I think, was fighting the fire. And yes, it was on the news and everything else. So, yeah, the unexpected can always happen in property. So, make sure you're insured and everything else, and always expect the unexpected. Okay, so Planning Geek formed the site in 2017 as I was pretty much fed up with all the bad information on the interwebby. And to be honest, there is still some very, very poor, I can see some nods, there is some very poor information still out there. Some of the sites are dire, they still get good Google ratings for some reason, and even Google picks up bad information, so you have to be very, very careful what you actually believe. We do planning applications across England, bless you, Scotland and Wales are to come. We've got multiple consultants, all RTPI members, and basically I'm just trying to double my staff at the moment because we're just taking on the volume. Specialise in all of those and almost obviously everything on the board here is on my banner. So we do work across the field in everything we do. Appeals, both small and large. We've got some big ones on at the moment, which are going to hopefully full hearings because we believe we can win them. And we also work with various architects to actually support their clients as well. So we are working with a number of people now, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's going well. Apart from that, we've got over 500 of free pages of free information on Planning Geek. That will always remain free. One thing we're quite pleased about is that virtually every local authority within England uses Planning Geek almost on a daily basis. I know this because they phone me up and they ask me for help and advice. I've had head of planning, I've had enforcement officers, I've had other people contact me and say, Ian, what am I doing? Am I right? Am I wrong? And unfortunately, I have to tell them whether they're right or wrong. I wish at times I could lead them up a merry path, but I can't. But yeah, they do ask me. Over 100,000 unique visitors now a month on the website. 15,000 Facebook group. We have a paid section now with discounts on various bits that we work with third parties. So yeah. It's a site that's just grown, and when I started this, it was one page, and it's just sort of blossomed ever since. So, why do you need a planning consultant, or when do you need one? This is a question I get asked almost on a daily basis. I need one when I am ready to actually submit planning. I don't need one. An architect will suffice. Now, we work with some great architects. Architects are great at drawing. But if I actually told you, even this week, I've had an architect come to me and book my time for a Zoom meeting because they don't understand everything, and not everyone can. And I'm not asking them to understand. I can't draw for toffee. I mean, if any of you are old enough to remember play school, and you had four windows, a door, and a chimney, and a bit of smoke coming out, that is my drawing limit. I really can't. I leave that to other people who can. If it all goes wrong, I'll contact you if you get refusal. It annoys the heck out of me when people do this. I'm sorry. Because quite often it's something basic which they've missed, and they could have solved the problem in the first place. Enforcement, that's even worse. They'll come to me, I've got enforcement here. I can't always work miracles, I'm afraid. If you've done something wrong and enforcement have come knocking, there's probably a reason why. Okay, if enforcement are wrong, and I'll find the reason enforcement wrong, I will tell them. I'll tell them to get lost, basically. The simple answer is now. I'd rather people come to me, book a Zoom session with me, just ask me what strategy should you be doing? What are the opportunities of this building? Are you going to get that house on the plot? Are you going to be able to extend out? Come and ask me. I'd rather sort of tell you now than you go down a rabbit hole, buy the wrong property, spend thousands on, solicitors and goodness knows what else. So you can always avoid that. Okay. What is an HMO? I'm sure we all know what an HMO is, but having done a lot of these talks, I'm aware that we get all sorts in a room, and what I don't do is tend to sort of say, well, you know, who hasn't got an HMOs type thing, because there'll always be somebody who's come along to an event like this, said, do you know what, I really don't have a Scooby-Doo, and they're all talking about these advanced things, and I tend to like to go back to basics at time. So house and multi-occupation, it must share basic amenities such as a kitchen or bathroom, unrelated people who are not living as a single household, and at least 3 unrelated people. And importantly, as I'm sure most of you know, it's not the number of bedrooms, it's the number of people within that property. Okay. So, use classes. Very important. It's already been mentioned once or twice today already, but it's very important that if you're looking at a property that you're trying to convert to an HMO or anything else, you've got to understand the foundations, the basics, because if you get this wrong, you'll probably go off in the wrong direction. So we've got 5. It's broken down to use class B, B2, B8. You're probably not going to get involved in those. Generally industrial or storage and distribution. Use class C, I'll come on to in a minute, it's where we all sleep. Use class E, which is basically shops, offices, gyms, light industrial, stuff like that. Bits you'll find on the high street, basically. So possibly converting there. F1, you're going to find it's hard to convert in most cases, which is things like education, churches, stuff like that. F2, even harder. If anything's F2, I'd probably just give it a wide berth, to be honest, because it's local community, pretty protected. So we're talking about things like outdoor sports, stuff like that. And everything else, bit of Latin for you, sui generis is how it's pronounced, which are locations that are unique in themselves. And if you go to useclass.co.uk, it's a shortened URL, and it will go straight through to that part of the website. Save you navigating through 500 odd pages of information. Okay, back to use class C, where we all sleep. So hotels, boarding houses, guest houses are C1. C2 are things like nursing homes, hospital, residential schools, that sort of thing. C2A, hopefully none of you will have too many dealings with those, sort of prisons and stuff like that. C3, dwelling houses, where the majority of us may well live. C4, obviously HMOs up to 6 people. And C5, I've got it in here, we probably will still see C5. It was due to come in, and then Sunak had the brilliant idea of calling an election. And so, you know, all bets are off, but I still think C5 is going to come in because there's a lot of demand for that. So things like SA. SA is a dog's breakfast, if I'm honest, around the country, because it doesn't really exist. So I'll be glad when C5 comes in, because it will regulate an awful lot of stuff, which at the moment could be C1, sui generis, or C3. It's very hard to predict how a local authority or even a planning officer will actually deal with those. Okay, back to HMOs. So we've got C3, C4, obviously up to 6 residents, and then sui generis will be a large HMO of 7 residents or more. Okay, if you are looking at property, so if you're looking at a building to convert, Omar actually gave a very good example earlier. He does have his uses at times, and he does have 1 or 2 bright ideas to say, you know. But it's very important for you to understand what you're looking at, because if you look at something wrong and do not understand the use class, you're going to screw up, basically, and you're going to do it wrong, or you're going to have the advantage over someone that doesn't understand. So in Omar's case, he had the foresight to actually read through the planning and have a look okay, and have a look, see, okay, what is the use class of something. A lot of other people will assume that, okay, you said D1, but that's now use class E as a nursery. But most people will just assume they'll see play equipment, or they'll see whatever, and they'll make some assumptions. Estate agents will, auction houses, anyone will. So the use class is the last legal use of that building. So what was it last used for? Go and have a look. Google Street View, very, very useful. Go back in time on it. If you're on the desktop, top left-hand corner, click it down. You can go back in time. You're going to do a little bit of Miss Marple or Inspector Clouseau, or whatever it is. You're going to go back in time and build up a picture of it. Go onto the VOA website. How is it rated? Go and have a look. It's all public information. Ask the neighbours. Just go and ask them. They'll probably find out. Former workers who used to work there. Any old leases, agreements, old utility bills, local Facebook groups. Great to join. If you're working in an area, go and join the Facebook group, and go and find out about a building. Go and ask. There'll always be someone that will answer your question. If it's a public body owns it, so it could be a local authority. Maybe do a freedom of information request on it. Whatdottheyknow.com. You can do free freedom of information requests. Very simple. Previous planning. Now be careful with this, because not all planning has been used and made extant. Planning may have been approved for something and been ignored. I've got planning on buildings which I've never used. I never intended to use, to be honest. I use it as a strategy to get something else. I use it almost as a stepping stone, almost as a fallback position. So just because a building has planning does not guarantee that that's been used. So you have to check that. Abandon. Has it been abandoned? Abandonment is not defined at all. So abandoned building could be 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You actually probably don't want it to abandon, because then you loses all use class completely, and you're back to square one. So even if it was a house that's been abandoned, it's lost even C3. So you need planning to do absolutely anything with it. So you probably don't want it abandoned. And if you're struggling, just go to bookian.co.uk, and I'll be too happy to help you. Okay, permitted development rights, also been mentioned once or twice. So importantly, C4 and to a lesser degree, large HMOs are still dwellings. Okay, they are still dwelling houses. That's very important. Local authorities may well disagree with you. I couldn't care less whether they disagreed with me, because I know what's on my side, and that's case law. So extensions, dormers, porches are all allowed. So you maximise your PD rights on the property, providing there's no Article 4 that exists, all right, or previous planning decisions. So you have to check previous planning, check an Article 4 in the area, see what it prevents. Recommend certificate of lawfulness is either afterwards or before you do something, because it will cement what you've actually done. You'll have a piece of paper from the local authority to prove it. However, even though an Article 4, C4 or large HMO has PD rights, if possible, expand when it's a C3. You're going to get less resistance, and if the local authority tries to say, oh, it's a C4, it's not a dwelling, you can't have it. Well, if you've already done it under C3, it's a little bit easier to actually do and argue that. You just want less arguments if possible. As I say, some local authorities will disagree. Case law says otherwise. So London Borough of Brent against the Secretary of State. It was from 2022. Effectively, within that, it was decided that the High Court said that C4s and larger HMOs are dwellings, and in fact, even C2s, believe it or not, could be under certain circumstances dwellings as well. It's not just a dwelling that we know. And part 1 is for extensions and alterations to dwelling houses, which could therefore be any of these. Okay, so creating a C4 from a C3 property. You've already been mentioned Article 4, so check. Importantly, if you've got a C4 in your area, please, please, please check to see what it prevents. Do not assume that it blocks HMOs. A lot do not block HMOs. Okay, there are an awful lot of Article 4s which do not block HMOs. They may block the fence. You can't have a fence in front of your house. They may block extensions. They could block absolutely anything, and they'll block something specific as well. Okay, move the 3 unrelated people in on ASTs, and then your Class L rights within the Part 3 will kick in automatically, and your C4 is created. So it's Class L, Part 3, Schedule 2, but if you just look up Class L, that is what it is. It's an automatic PD right. So it will kick in automatically. You'll go from C3 to C4 automatically. Again, get a certificate of lawfulness for that, and it will give you an awful lot of benefits. But Class L also allows you to go from C4 to C3. And that's important. Now, even in the Article 4 area, believe it or not, it does not block, in most cases, does not block going from C4 to C3. Okay? Now, that's very important, because if you've got your C4 operating within an Article 4 area, what you want to make sure is you do not inadvertently make that into a C3 property. And that's very easy to do if you don't know what you're doing. So avoid long periods of vacancy. So don't leave it empty for a long period of time. And if for some reason you've only got 1 or 2 people in, please do not allow them full reign of the house. Because if you do, you may well have inadvertently created a C3 dwelling. And if you're in Article 4 area, you'll need planning to go back to your C4. So don't give them the full reign. I was going to say keep them locked in a room, but don't do that either. That's probably not a good idea. But just you know, keep other rooms out of bounds. Two of them. Don't say, well, you're the only one here who can run the free around the house. You don't want to do that at all.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being new today. So if
Sorry?
under permitted development, you sorry, I'm trying to go back to what.
No, sorry. That's right. Let me go back.
You've got AST for 3 people staying there, and you want to extend to like 6 bedrooms. How do you make that transition? That's the part that I didn't quite understand.
Sorry, can you? I apologise. Sorry, I do suffer from a little bit of hard hearing. So can you just repeat your question? Sorry.
So from item 3, where you said move to 3 unrelated people on separate assured tenancies, then how do you then from that point move to 6 bedrooms?
Well, you can have up to 6 people in a C4, okay. So you can still move your. All I'm saying is move once you've moved 3 people in, your Class L rights kick in, yeah. But you can go up to 6 people.
Okay.
So that's you can still. It's between 3 and 6 okay. In a C4, so you can go up to 6 anyway. Okay. All right. No problems at all. So creating sui generis HMO. A little bit more involved because you have got to understand local policy. So, for example, it's been mentioned earlier, a local authority quite often will not like family homes being lost. So they will try and resist this. They'll want to know how many HMOs in a certain radius, and that depends upon local authority to local authority. Sandwich, I don't mean something from M&S here. It's the number of, it's effectively what they want to avoid is a C3 between 2 HMOs. They don't like that for obvious reasons, and I don't think any of you would necessarily want to live between a C3 between two HMOs. Minimum space standards, whilst there are national minimum space standards for HMOs, they can vary between local authorities. So check, do not assume anything. Okay. Now, those space standards may apply both internally and externally within the property as well. Say it's family home marketing. So, even if you have got a family home you're looking to convert, it's not the end of the world. Okay. Doesn't mean to say you won't get it. We certainly have got it, but we often have to do a marketing report, say why that family home isn't in demand. Has it been on sale for a long time? Why hasn't it sold? They'll look at things like parking. The Lambeth parking survey or strategy will be involved. You've got to do it 3 times in a week, once probably at 2 a.m. in the morning. Waste, where the bin's going to go, where your bike's going to go. Amenity space both inside and outside. Look at the local plan. It gets very, very involved trying to create a sui generis HMO. And really, you can get deeply into it. You might need a transport planning statements. You might need noise assessments as well. The list of reports goes on. So yeah, my advice. I'm biased, obviously, but I would recommend getting a planning consultant in because they'll make your life an awful lot easier to actually get that larger HMO. But it's quite possible. It is quite possible. Okay. So what I would avoid completely, if possible, is going from a C3 to a sui generis. Okay. Basically, you'll get an awful lot of opposition. So you will get the neighbours, you'll probably get the entire village or town or city or whatever objecting to your scheme. Okay. There's no need to go that way. So go from your C3 to your C4. You as in your Class L rights, do all your extensions and all that, and you will find the path an awful lot easier. Unfortunately, I still see people doing C3 to sui generis. I was looking at one in Bristol. That went slightly differently because they're in special measures, and so they can apply straight to inspectorate. But there were 41 objections to this sui generis HMO. So it is a bit of a problem. Or maybe you don't need planning. Maybe you don't need planning at all to go to a sui generis HMO. So do you actually need planning? Maybe not. Okay, so the possible way you can do it is create an extra bedroom or 2 under PD. Okay, so you've got your 6-bed HMO, and you create a 7th or an 8th bedroom. Remember, an HMO is a number of people, not the bedrooms. So you create your 7 or 8 bedroom HMO, and then you move a 7th person in. It may not be a material change of use. Okay. So section 55, it's going to get a little bit technical here, so I apologise. Section 55 talks about development. It's the building, engineering, and all that, or the making of any material change in the use of any buildings or other land. Okay, and it's that last few words that is key. Okay, the reason it's key is because material change of use is not defined anywhere. It is not defined, and it's a matter of fact in degree as to how whether some things had a material effect. Now, if you've moved your 7th person in, and essentially nobody has even realised, no one's complained, no one said anything, then the chances are you've probably not made a material change because it hasn't affected the neighbourhood, it hasn't affected people, and as a general rule, you may well be okay. Now, I've got a list probably about that deep of a residential property and create a C4 HMO in an Article 4 area by using the same method. You don't necessarily have to go through planning, even in an Article 4 area. And there's enough appeals now where the inspectorate has decided that there is not a material change of use. Now, it won't work everywhere, and I strongly recommend working with somebody that understands this, but it is actually possible to do, and it's been done many times before, but you have to have the right arguments and you have to have the right situation. But in all honesty, it happens, and it happens more often than you might think, because you might have a tenant in there, Mary, for example. She's been living there and quite enjoyable. She suddenly falls in love with Frank. So Frank comes along, moves in with Mary. Excuse me, my talks are serious. Stop laughing at the back there. No, Frank comes along, moves in with Mary. Mary already has a double bed. Doesn't say a word to anybody. Okay, you're probably not even aware yourself because Mary keeps herself to herself, and you're totally unaware. But all of a sudden, you've got 7 people living there, and nobody's actually not realised. No one's complained. The number of vehicles hasn't suddenly risen. The bins haven't gone through the roof outside, and everyone's happy. So it's a good reason why this exists. To actually probably allow for situations like that. So yeah, you don't always need planning. There's always one in the room that wants to ask a question. Go on.
Thank you. So you said C4, right? It allows up to 6 people. But if you've gone from like a friend who just moved in, and now you've got a C4 with certificate of local development in an Article 4 area, but all of a sudden, can you move another? Like Ben, Omar, and James.
Well, in theory, there isn't a limit. In theory, obviously, if you're suddenly going from a 6-bed to a 10-bed, yeah, you probably are going to make material change of use. Now, my guidance on this is probably you're fine going from 6 to 7, and you may be okay going from 6 to 8, but beyond that, probably not, because you are then going to start making a material change of use and you are going to make some alterations. So, it's like anything. It depends what the inspectorate will actually decide and whether the inspectorate will be on your side. You'll go for lawfulness probably for your 7, and the local authority will say, you again, you ain't getting that at all, and I'm going to refuse it. So you have to appeal it. And hopefully in a year's time, whenever the inspector gets round to it, you will get that piece of paper saying, yep, you can have 7 because I do not think it's a material change of use. All right?
Generous, you have a number of occupants limit, right? But C4 is up until 6 people. So for example, I have 2 people now. Omar moves in 3, and I get a certificate of local development for C4. And after I go to the C4, theoretically, you can have up to 6 people, so can James, everybody else?
Yeah. Well, it depends what it is. Depends what. Did I do my glass? Yeah, sorry. There's a spare glass there. Thank you. Sorry. I'm sure I poured it out there. It's vanished. Well, as long as you are if you're going from C4 to sui generis, or from C3 to C4, yeah, you can have whatever that allows for. So if you go for well, you've got to be careful with this, because even if you've got a C3 and you're going to a C4, you using this method, going from 2 to 3 people, which has been passed also by an inspectorate. Again, if you start moving more people into that, although it's a C4, you haven't used Class L rights. So Class L allows between 3 and 6, but you're not using Class L here. Don't forget, you're using not being development in the Town and Country Planning Act 1999. So you're using other legislation to actually get your advantage.
How quickly is it you can make them aware that you've done that? Because obviously there must be a time period of...
No, not really, no. Because the important thing here is the fact that you are operating under other rules. So you're actually doing it under the Town and Country Planning Act. So because you're doing it under Section 55, there is no time there. You don't have to go and tell them next week or next month, because it is not development as far as you're concerned. So as far as you're concerned, you're not breaking any rules. So you don't have to go a week later and say, excuse me, planning officer, I've now got 7 people. Is this all right? Okay. I'll come on to that in a second, if I may. So use for another use. So C2, for example, care homes, quite often we'll get people coming to us looking to convert a care home, or it could be offices, shops, stuff like that to an HMO. You need to understand the planning history of the property. Understand the parking limits, please. I can't read that, so I can't read that at all. I don't do English, so fine. Can you argue a car-free scheme? What about the business of the property? You may need a marketing and viability report, especially with a care home. You've got to be careful. Got to jump through a few hoops here. So yeah, again, speak to a planning consultant, book a Zoom call, whatever you want. But just be aware there's a few more hoops you're going to do when you're actually converting from something like a care home. Article 4, been mentioned once or twice today already. Normally it takes at least 12 months to come in, so it must be specific as to what it prevents. As I mentioned earlier, there's a long procedure to introduce one, so therefore make hay whilst the sun shines. But does it affect HMOs? So if an Article 4 is coming in, understand exactly when it will come into effect, and I mean exactly. Mark that day on your calendar, on the wall, somewhere you won't miss it. Ensure you have at least 3 tenants a day before. Ensure you have at least 3 tenants day after. Okay? Then submit a certificate of lawfulness and get it confirmed in writing. Very important. If you don't do that, keep the detailed records, because you will remember today, 4th of July, not 2024. But if I asked you what you were doing on today's date in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, you'll probably say, I haven't got Scooby-Doo. I don't know what I was doing then, or who was in my building. So keep your records. Okay, quite often you'll want to buy an HMO, which is in a Article 4 area. Again, understand exactly when that Article 4 came into place. Ensure the seller can prove they had a legal HMO both immediately and immediately afterwards. Check the ASTs. Don't just assume it is. Do not buy unless you've got proof, please. We've had people do this and they've run into problems. Get another certificate of lawfulness. Get it in writing to confirm that HMO is legal in that. Do not assume at all, however nice the seller might be. You know, if it's someone from in this room selling it, I'm sorry, do not trust them. All right, they're all very nice in this room. Exactly, especially. Brief word on licensing. Okay, as you know, it's mandatory for 5, 3 or 4 if it's selective licensing is in place. A license cannot be transferred. It's not required if you're living with a couple of lodgers, because it's not an HMO. Now, importantly, we are getting this problem. When you come to renew your license, quite often now they're wanting proof of planning, even if you've done a Class L. So they want in this. So get a certificate of lawfulness to cover the fact, right? It's also, and it was mentioned earlier, we are working with various local authorities, and we've talked to several, and we're now getting a situation where we can get a 1-year temporary license. So rather than it being over the normal 5 years, whatever it is, we're actually working with them. So they'll say, okay, we'll issue a one-year license whilst we sort out the planning. And if you go to that link, then you can fill in the form, and we'll be only too happy to help you. The link's also, I think, on here, and on the on the link on your tables as well. So loft certificate, you've got either got Clwyd, which is existing use, a Clopard, which is proposed use or development. It's always been 10 years for HMOs. It's never been anything else, and you've got to do it. You'll need proof that you had the HMO, so ASTs, affidavits, invoice, photos, etc., etc. The more proof you have, the better to actually get your certificate of lawfulness. Now, if you don't know who Mr. Fiddler was, he was a chap that built a house and hid them behind bales of hay. Do not be like him. It must be in plain sight. If you hide something from the local authority, it could be 50 years. It's not going to count. Okay? It can also be used to provide prove PD rights are legal. So if you're doing an extension or dormers or something like that, a certificate of lawfulness can also prove that as well. Okay, so just to recap, HMOs are quite possible with the planning system. Needs more work when Article 4 exists, but it's not impossible. Understanding Article 4 if it does exist. It's very important that you understand that. Get a certificate of lawfulness on all HMOs. If you asked me a year or two back, I'd have probably said no, you don't need certificate of lawfulnesses. We are now seeing them from lenders, local authorities. They're all asking for them. So I now recommend them on all HMOs, to be honest. So if you've got HMOs, I would just get it and get the paperwork in place. It's going to help with financing that was mentioned earlier. Lot of finance now will want proof of planning, and obviously with licensing where it is. Understand your PD rights. Understand exactly what you can do. You can put a 3, 4, 6 metre extension on the back of a detached house, or 8 metres on the detached house. Loft up to 50 cubic metres. Veluxes to the front. And is a 7th person material change of use, or even the 3rd person? And then obviously reach out to us if you do need help. I think it was only a couple more slides. One more slide. So everything I've spoken about is on the Planning Geek website, far more in depth. Extensions, outbuildings, still, well, there's 500 odd pages there. So if in a conservation area, it does not mean you do not have PD rights. You do. Even in the listed building, you still have PD rights, believe it or not. Glossary, planning application, news, links, forums, over 500 pages of information. And yeah, that's my information. So please take a photo of that, scan the QR codes on there as well. It's on your tables. I've been Ian. It's been an absolute delight to be with you. You've got some sunglasses in front of you. They are a gift from me. And what we're going to do is do a photo with those. And yes. And there we are.
Planning Geek website. Has anyone been on there before? I use it all the time.
As does everyone else. So 100%.